Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by other prospect experts here at the Hockey Writers, Peter Baracchini and Dayton Reimer. Peter, how's it going? We've got under 18s coming up, and that's what we're going to focus this episode on. That starts on Friday as we're recording, and this will drop a couple days before, so you can kind of get set up. But Peter, how's it going?
Yeah, a lot of hockey going on, playoffs in the NHL, but yeah, this is the last stretch for the, NHL draft in terms of international tournaments. This is the big one. I mean, already Central Scouting already released its final rankings, but this is still that opportunity for players to showcase and improve their stock even more. So going to be an entertaining one, that's for sure.
And Dayton, how's it going?
It's good. Yeah. Working at, updating some CHL stuff. If you haven't been over on the Substack, I've got some OHL and WHL top performers from eliminated teams, which has been really fun to research. I'm working on the queue right now, so that's a little tougher. There's not as many top prospects, but it's fun. So yeah, things are good.
There you go.
Draft season.
The QMJHL is not it's not as prominent in this draft. I mean, there's a few names, but there's no high end guys. That's just pretty much OHL and. There's a lot of OHL players in this one, this coming draft. So that's exciting. And yeah, we'll get to some of those guys. All right. Well, before we do, I'll mention our Substack here, Dayton. That was a good segue into our promo here. Make sure checking out the Substack at, we got the prospects, we got the draft. We've got a whole bunch of other stuff, hockey history, news and rumors, lots of fun stuff over at the Substack, so check that out in the link below. All right, well, the under 18s are just a couple days away as we're recording. That's starting on Friday in Finland. And, it's always so hard to watch these games when they're overseas because they're always either so early in the morning or late at night, whatever you want to kind of say. It's usually really early from where I am. So it's kind of tough to watch the games, but you usually get unless you like waking up really early to watch them. But it's a fun time. Like you said, Peter, this is the last time where these prospects will get to showcase themselves, whoever is on the teams, to kind of up their stock and for the last basically stretch of the season. So it's pretty big for these guys that aren't in their respective junior playoffs or that can't go. But a lot of these still have some really high-end names. So we're going to go through some of the main rosters here and just take a look at some players to watch. And we'll start with Canada, as we always, we love here, and we love Canada. And because we're all in Canada. So we'll start with you, Peter. What are some players to watch on this Canadian team? Pretty much led by, there's a few really good names. TJ Ginla, Jet Luchenko, Gavin McKenna's on the team. So, lots of fun names. Who are you watching the most here?
Yeah, it really is hard to pick just one name because this is probably the deepest forward or deepest team that Canada has sent in recent memory. I can't remember the U18 team as deep. You could probably go back to the 2021 in, Texas, but that was just absolutely stacked from top to bottom. You had Bedard at 16, Wright, Stankoven. You had everyone on that team. May not have the same elite level, but you do have a lot of quality and substance up front and on the back end. You look at their roster, it's you could go on and on about how this player is going to be very important, especially on defense too. Kayshawn Aitchison, who had a really good season in the OHL, I believe, with Barry, Harrison Brunnicke, who's, looking to improve his stock. He dealt with injuries. Spencer Gill, an up-and-comer. But I'm going to focus on the goaltenders because that's usually the main sticking point. It's kind of I kind of feel bad for just picking on the goalies, but that has been the issue for Canada as of late. you basically get the two top minders in Carter George and Ryerson Leenders, and also I believe Jack Ivankovic, who was, Leenders is tandem buddy with the Mississauga Steelheads, joining the group as well. So you got two top goalies in 2024 and another one in the next draft as well in Ivankovic. So it's going to be interesting to see who will overtake the starter role, because you have two different styles of play. Leenders, who's a little bit more dialed in, a little bit more, not necessarily cautious, but he's very more steady with his movement. Carter George plays a little bit more of an aggressive style. Who's going to come out on top? Who's going to give Canada the best opportunity to win? Believe they just played a game against Norway, and it's probably not going to be an easy competition or easy tournament because they went to overtime, I believe. Canada just got the W, and I believe Georgia was in net for that one, but pre-tournament, not going to look too much into that. But they do have two steady netminders that can probably get the job done this time around as opposed to previous years. So it doesn't matter who they're going to go with, George, Leenders. Don't think Ivankovic is going to have that opportunity just yet, considering where George and Leenders are right now heading into the draft. But they are the top goaltenders in the OHL for a reason, or, some of the top names in the OHL for a reason. And they're going to be very relied on heavily to backstop Canada to a deep run.
They're also two of the top goaltenders in the coming draft. One of them's going to go first, I think. It's not high end, but I think one of them could go later second round. We'll see, but yeah, they're going to be ones to watch. Dayton, what about you? Who are you focusing on Team Canada here?
Yeah, there's lots of really top talent on this roster. A lot of whom are going to go in probably the first round for this draft here.
Yeah.
But I'm looking next year. And Roger McQueen has been such an interesting guy to follow. He is a 17-year-old with the Brandon Wheat Kings. And the Wheat Kings didn't have a strong team this year. They kind of saw the writing on the wall. And so they traded away their top star, Nate Danielson, to the Portland Winterhawks, who are currently playing in the Western semifinal, I believe, against Prince George Cougars. So it was a good trade for them. Of course, Brandon gets wiped out first round, 4 games. Very unsurprising. Roger McQueen had 4 goals in that time. This guy can score, and he didn't really show it a ton during the season, but when he was given a chance to kind of be the guy, he was the guy. And it helps that he's 6'5". That never hurts, but he's just a really, really dynamic, talented player. And I'm really interested to see how he works on a team where he's going to be on the younger side and probably asked to be, maybe in a supporting role. He's not going to probably take the top line away from, Liam Greentree, TJ Ginla, Jet Lachenko. Those guys have that locked. But a second unit, can he be a supporting role? That'd be interesting to see. And if he shines in that. There's a lot of really, really good 17-year-olds on this team. Porter Martone, he's another really good one. You mentioned Kashawn Aitchison, sorry. Reese Hamilton, who was kind of Carter Yakimchuk's yin to his yang. A little bit. I saw him play a little, and he looked a lot more calm, a lot more intelligent. And he had a couple of really good breaks, and then I learned he was up for next year. So yeah, really, really good team.
Especially up front too, I think don't overlook some of those players that are in the future drafts, like Martone, like Gavin McKenna, like Roger McQueen, who could probably be really big contributors as well, as opposed to the star players. Like you said, they could be really good supporters, but it wouldn't surprise me if one of them's in top 5 in scoring as well.
I wouldn't be surprised if Gavin McKenna is. I mean, he's just unreal, and he's not until 2026. So that's
selfishly, I do want him to have kind of a more subdued playoffs because everyone's buying his hockey cards.
Yeah.
And it's too much money, and they need to either give me one or
we also
need to stop buying them so the price goes down. Oh my goodness, they want $100 for his card already.
Oh my god!
I was about to say we didn't even mention names like Malcolm Spence, Matthew Schaefer as well too. That's how deep this team really is.
Yeah. They are definitely a deep team. So let's move to, they are in a group with Sweden, I mean, they're another strong team. Sweden, Czechia, Kazakhstan, and Switzerland. I Peter, where do you feel they're gonna finish in this? Are they gonna be top of the group? Uh, because I'd say the two top powers are probably Sweden and Canada there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to come down to Sweden, Canada, 1-2. I mean, it seems like whenever it's like Sweden, Canada, Sweden, or Canada, USA, Sweden, USA, whatever, it's like those are the top teams in that division. You're always looking at them. And I think I would give the edge to Canada, mainly because that a lot of the players from this team were still on the ones that absolutely demolished or crushed at the Helinka Gretzky tournament as well. You had, Cole Baldwin, Greentree, Ryder Ritchie, believe Malcolm Spence was on that team as well, Carson Wetch. So you have a lot of depth there and returning players, which is a good sign for Canada going into this tournament. And I think it's going to go well for them. Sweden, you have a lot of great, again, it's kind of like a down year for Sweden. I know we were talking off the air about down year for QMJHL players. This is kind of like a down year for Sweden as well. It seems like you don't know where the first Swede is going to be taken when you know it's either like top 10, top 5, top 3. Could be later in the first round or mid first round until you see that. And, they have names like Lucas Pettersson, Alphonse Frey, Linus Eriksson, Jack Berglund. They got a lot of names on that team that you need to watch out for, but seems like the firepower on Canada may just be a little bit too much for them as well. But, who knows what's going to happen? It's going to come down to those two teams, but I think the edge will definitely go in Canada's favor to win the group.
Yeah, I think so too. Dayton, do you think Canada's gonna win the group, or you going with
I
Sweden?
don't know how they don't. I
Yeah.
think it's theirs to lose. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned the Helinka Gretzky, which I believe they won, right? They're missing some key contributors for that roster, which is unfortunate. Berkeley Catton and
Hayden Lindstrom.
Are both
Yeah.
injured.
Yeah.
And that's going to hurt. But you have a lot of guys who are going to step up and just take over those spots. They've done really well without those guys. So I'm also really thinking that Leenders is going to take over the starting role. He's just been so unbelievably consistent. Like you can't shake him. He doesn't let in bad goals, it seems. Carter George is a little bit hit and miss sometimes. Sometimes he's really great and sometimes he's not. So if they have Leenders in, it's, I think, clear sailing. It'll be a little bit riskier with George. So yeah, long answer to say gold. It's for sure gold.
Yeah, I think they probably will win their group and have a good chance of gold. All right, well, speaking of Sweden, let's talk about a few of their players. Again, a pretty strong roster. Like you said, they're both going to be fighting for the top spot in the group. We have talked about them not having the strongest for this coming draft, where they're not going to have a lot of guys that are going to be high end like we've had in the past. But Dayton, who do you if I could speak, who are you watching on this roster?
Well, their defense is really strong. Like you got, I think we already mentioned Alphonse Frey, Leo Salin, Milenius, Jack Bodine. Yeah, it is Jack.
Yeah, he's on the roster.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember if his first name was Jack because that's, it's very Swedish.
Yeah.
But there's two forwards, I think, that are going to be really interesting to pay attention to. And the first, you already mentioned him. That's Lucas Pettersson. To me, he reminds me of a Nate Danielson. He's really, really smart. He's patient. He's always putting himself in that best position to help his team, whatever that is. I don't think he's the biggest guy. He's 5'11". I had to find that for a second. But yeah, really smooth skater. He just looks really good out there in the clips I've watched. And in my top 40, I put him in the first round. I think he's that dynamic, right? Nate Danielson didn't wow you, but he's so intelligent. And all of a sudden, he's become a star. I think that's in Luke Pettersson's potential. Another guy is Melvin Fernstrom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who Had some SHL games, didn't score, but he is another one of those really quick, really high-end offense guys. 31 goals in 45 games with the under 20s. He's just very good. Another potential first rounder. I didn't put him in mine, but he could definitely boost that up with a really strong performance with Sweden.
Mm-hmm. Peter, how about you? Who are you watching here?
I want to give a quick shout out to William Eklund's brother Victor, who's up for the 2025 draft. I mean, we talk about like this year's draft, but we also look forward to the next one.
Yeah.
And definitely a name that you could probably look out for, because as a 17-year-old at the U20 or at the J20 level, he had 25 points in 30 games for Djurgårdens, and it's kind of similar mold, very strong playmaker, great IQ type of player. Want to see how he fares, and obviously he fares well against players older than him, so see what he can do here. Obviously maybe in a supporting role, but I want to see, just a little bit more, get a little bit of a feel for 2025. But for me, I'm going to go to the defense too. Alphonse Frey, wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be leading the tournament and scoring among defensemen because of how dynamic he is with his skating and his ability to lead a rush in transition and just to pick his spots as well. Like, he's very smart with that. Again, defensively, work in progress for any offensive defenseman, but man, can he produce and finish off plays. The other is Gabriel Eliasson. So complete opposite of Alphonse Frey, more of a shutdown type of defenseman. Believe he's 6'6", 205. So yeah, he's going to be a guy that's probably going to be using key roles, penalty kill, shutting things down against other teams' top players because of that size, because of that aggressiveness and physicality that he possesses. Again, I really like those mixed blend of two-way players, stay-at-home type of defenders. I don't know what his offensive upside is going to be, but I really do like his defensive game, and I want to see it a little bit closer in this tournament.
Yeah, I like the two-way defensemen too. They're a lot more needed in the NHL now because you can't be one-sided each way. I mean, you have to be a all-around defenseman. There's not as many of those just pure defensive defensemen, and you can't get by just being pure offense either.
Yeah.
There's a point where you're going to have to learn how to play defense or you're not going to go very far. So, yeah, I definitely those guys are in high demand in the NHL now. So he'll probably be a guy that'll go probably in the first 2 rounds, right? So, all right. Well, we already said Sweden is going to finish second to Canada. So, what do you think their weakness in the roster is for Sweden? I mean, their goaltending, there's not a lot of big names. What do you think? What will they have to do to kind of compete with the Canadas? And I mean, I guess US will probably be up there too. I'll start with you, Peter.
Yeah. Usually there's a name that stands out. But it kind of seems like they have like average names for the defense, for the defense in net. You really you have some strong names that are up for the draft, but it's kind of like mid-tier where, not a whole lot of goalies from the European side. So you have Hugo Laring, who's ranked 7th among defensemen. For this year's draft, you have Harnestam, who's up for 2025 in next season. But the one name there is Laring, and there's also Herman Liv. Sorry, everything's just a little bit slow loading for me right now. But yeah, so you really you have one name for this year, one name for next year. You have a name in Liv that really isn't on a lot of teams' radars. He's 17 as well, so most likely next draft you could possibly see him. But yeah. It's definitely one where someone's definitely going to have to stand out and have a good game. Obviously, with that defensive front, it may alleviate some of that pressure in net for them. But yeah, we'll see what happens, because I'm not going to lie, I really haven't dwelled too much into the European goalies.
Yeah,
this season, because there's so many names that up front, on the back end.
Yeah.
In Canada and Europe, that it's a little bit lesser compared to even the names and goaltenders from North America. But think definitely all eyes are going to be on Laring because of the fact that he is draft eligible. Decent size, 6'2", 198. So if Sweden's definitely going to go far trying to like get far in the tournament or win the group, he's definitely going to be one of those names as well that can carry the load.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention the goaltenders because I mean, usually Sweden has at least one that you're kind of hoping to kind of stand out. But yeah, this year it's not very strong for goaltenders in general. So I just kind of wanted your thoughts on the goaltending there.
Yeah.
All right, Dayton's move over to Team USA, and they're a pretty, again, another stronger team, and they always bring pretty good players to this tournament. Who are you watching on this roster?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but have they released their roster
That's
yet?
what I'm kind of thinking here. I was trying to
Yeah.
pull up the roster, and it's not up here.
So I would imagine they take a lot of their
U18 program, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That seems to be kind of what they do, and you know that they qualify anyways. Cole Eiserman's going to be on everyone's radar. He is the dynamic goal scorer who has a lot of issues, namely that he doesn't play anything else but goal scorer. But when he does play goal scorer, he's fantastic. And putting him on a world stage where he didn't get the chance at the U20s will be a really big test to see, is this kid still a top 5, a top 10 player, or has he slipped out? I'm really going to be watching to see if he can kind of live up to his height. There's also a couple of really interesting defensemen. Cole Hudson, younger brother of Lane, who just made his NHL debut and looks fantastic, like everybody expected. And of course, the comparisons will be there. Is Cole Hudson going to be as good as his older brother? I think we can safely say that he won't be. Lane has emerged as kind of an otherworldly talent, almost like a Cale Makar, though I don't think they play very similar styles. But he still has that high offensive mind and could be sort of that high-flying defender for the Americans. I think then if he's going to do that, you pair him with EJ Emery, who is a big shutdown guy, big, physical, right-handed shot. He could be a first-round pick. Scouts seem to love him. I couldn't find a lot of clips to see what they love about him. So it would be nice to see kind of that skill on display for everyone to see, like what makes him so special.
Yeah. So what's nice about the under 18, you can watch some of these guys you're not able to find a lot of coverage for on video, right? So definitely good. Peter, no, they haven't released their roster. We know some of the names. Who are you kind of watching here?
Yeah, I was just looking at recent games on the national team development page, and it looks like maybe they played one game internationally. It was their opponent was Sweden, but not going to look too much into that because, again, chances are I hope majority of those names on the national team development program are going to be there. Any name that we think is going to be on there is probably a safe bet. But I am going to pick Teddy Stiga, a big riser in this last half of the season, and a lot of rankings, Central Scouting, even, other outlets out there online are very high on him. And you can see why with the production. He was third in scoring behind Eiserman and Hagens, just 12 points behind Hagens for the team lead. And we know how great James Hagens is. We know how he had that dynamic chemistry with Eiserman, but for Stiga to be that kind of third player, to be very productive ahead of other names like Camille Bednarik, Brody Ziemer, Christian Humphreys, Max Plant, who are names that he's basically jumped in terms of like value and stock in terms of the draft this season. So they got bumped down, and Stiga's energy, the way that he plays, is definitely a reason why that's a result of getting him that opportunity or getting ranked higher up as a result of that, because you see him play. Yeah, he's on the smaller side. He's 5'10", 176, but he is very intense. He has that energy. He has the speed, the skill. Anything that he has that can make up for the lack of size, he uses that to his advantage with his play with the puck and his tenacity. driving hard to the middle of the ice. I think he's going to be one of those names on Team USA. It's definitely going to be a difference maker, and he's going to be a top 3 scorer for them in this tournament. So I want to see. I've seen a bit of him leading up to this part, but I think this tournament's definitely going to, prove everything that's right about Stiga and what we all see in his game, and a reason why he got ranked higher on the final list than before.
For sure, yeah. Our prospect profile was just released on the Hockey Writers on the 22nd yesterday, as we're recording this, by Jim Bay. So if you wanted to check that out, you can check that out on the Hockey Writers website. So good timing there.
Perfect timing.
There you go.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, a lot there. He's been ranked all over the place, really. 18th by Tony Ferrari, which is crazy. That he literally likes him. We should get him back on the show, because I want to kind of talk about some of his rankings, which are, because I want to see what he has to say for a few of them.
Yeah, glancing over them, they were wildly different than anyone else I'd say.
Yeah. I love that with Tony, because he basically gives off his take and he doesn't care what anybody else says.
I do respect that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he has his reasoning for a lot of them, right? So yeah.
And it's all valid.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's not like Craig Buttons sometimes. So you're like, huh?
Well, he's big and he skates.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Craig.
All right. Before we move on to the rest of our countries here, got to take a break and talk about our Substack here at the Hockey Writers. Like I said at the beginning, lots of great stuff over there. We got the NHL Draft and Prospect Substack with a bunch of recent stuff like Dayton's put out, with going through the CHL and talking about the different leagues there. And also his rankings were released not that long ago. Check that out as well. And of course, lots more to come on the Substack as we move closer and closer to the draft. So check that out in the link below. Okay, let's move on to Team Finland. And I mean, they've got some interesting names as well. Again, not a lot of high-end guys that's going to be drafted really high in this. There are a few, actually, that could be, but not a ton of them. Peter, who are you looking at? There are a couple names for sure that we'll be watching.
Yeah, I think the main one you got to look at is Aaron Kiviharju. I mean, his draft stock has kind of dipped in terms of overall gameplay. I know he had that injury this season. Really can't fault him on that, because injuries happen. They're fluke incidences, and it's a shame that he wasn't able to have the draft season to try and build himself back up. But luckily for him, this tournament definitely can. And we know he has the IQ. We know he has the awareness and the smarts. Obviously, being a 5'9" defender or 5'10" defender, 165 pounds, can he still hold himself up and, handle the physicality, handle those type of plays, that intensity on the back end as a defenseman? Because that can be a factor, and it can be a reason why teams may not think highly of that. There has been inconsistencies going back and forth, but hopefully now he's able to find his game, especially with this tournament. Hopefully this could put some of those doubts to rest if he's able to dominate on the back end for Finland, because he definitely has the potential. Definitely, it wasn't just too long ago that we were talking about him as potentially a top pick in this draft. And unfortunately, things happen. Other players increase their stock, and Kiviharju really didn't. Even heading into the season, there really wasn't a whole much to think that maybe he may be worth, top 10, 12, possibly, but it just didn't quite work out for him this season. But this tournament definitely can help him regain that form, regain that confidence, and regain that play that can get him drafted earlier as opposed to later, like late round first or even early second, where some outlets even have him as.
I feel if he goes into the second round, which is possible, that someone's going to get a steal, because like you said, they've got a lot of skill, and that injury really derailed it a bit, and it's hard to get back from. But he's still a high-end defender, and you gotta look at that. But I mean, there's so many other guys that have played more, a lot of scouts have seen more that are going to be higher, and
Mhm.
teams are going to draft them before him. And like you said, his size too could be a factor. But I mean, I still think he's going to be really good in the future. It's just someone's going to get him in a place that he probably shouldn't go. Dayton, what about you? Is there anyone on this roster that you're kind of looking at?
Yeah, I think their goaltending is maybe going to save them a little bit. Kim Saarinen
Mhm.
is maybe one of the best goaltenders available this year. I think he, more than George, will fight for the first goalie off the board with Leanders. He's 6'4". He's had success in Finland's Liga, 2 games played, a 909 save percentage, so he wasn't blown out, which is uh, almost very impressive to see. A lot of young guys do get kind of shelled in their first couple of games, especially in the European leagues. It's a tough league to break into. Ranked third among European goalies, though. So he's fallen a little bit since the early rankings. I think Emil Vinny passed him, but he's no longer eligible for this tournament. So this is a chance for him to reassert why he could be one of the best goalies in the tournament, and he has the numbers to back it up. So I'd like to see if he could do it.
Mhm.
Another guy I'm going to be watching. Ooh, there's actually two, but I'll just pick one of them that I don't think anyone has on their radar. Jonas Saarelainen. He is ranked 49th among European skaters, which usually means he's not getting drafted. Um, but in under 18 competitions so far this year, he has been by far Finland's best player. He has 10 goals in 12 games in just like European tournaments. At the Hlinka Gretzky, he was the captain and 2 points in 5 games there, so not as impressive, but serving as the captain. He had 36 points in 41 games as an assistant captain in the under 20 league in Finland. So he's a good leader. He seems to be able to score like effortlessly. He's just 5'9". So I wonder what his impact will be now that he's getting thrown into maybe one of the tougher tournaments he'll be in.
Yeah, that's a name that I don't know if a lot of people are watching, but yeah, being a captain and then being an alternate assistant captain too, I definitely see that leadership for sure. Another guy, Atos Koivu. I love the guys
Mhm.
that are, they're Saku Koivu's his dad, and ranked 60th by Bob McKenzie. So that's like second round. In later second round. It's we have a profile on him on the Hockey Writers as well that came out not that long ago. If I can pull that up pretty quick. He about a week ago. Jesse Corville Lynch put one out for Koivu, so check that out. He's one of the guys that could be a pretty big, maybe a big factor in this one. He's got a great shot. Um, lots of great, pretty good skill set. One thing he's got to improve is his physicality, his physical game, but that'll come with time. He could be someone to watch in this tournament. One more guy I've had on my Emil Hemming. We've talked about him a couple times, I believe, on the show too. So yeah, there's some names to watch. I think Finland could be in the realm of. So well, let's move to that. Peter, where do you think Finland and US are gonna? They're both in the same group. So are they gonna fight for it, or US kind of takes this, depending on the roster, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I think Finland may put up a fight, but I think it's the US.
Yeah.
They always dominate this tournament every single year because of that program, because of the chemistry that all the players have. They work so well together as a group, and that's to say that players from Sweden don't, Team Finland doesn't, Canada doesn't. It's just they're always stacked and they're always so deep and talented every single year. But like you said, there are a lot of underrated names on Finland that can prove to be a difference maker. We talked about Koivu, we talked about Sarah Linen, and I even think Emil Hemming as well. But I even think like a name like Kasper Pikkarainen can do some damage as well. I believe he's ranked in the 20s from Central Scouting among EU skaters, 24th by Central Scouting, and he's labeled as a second rounder by Bob McKenzie as well. 6'4", 6'3", 194 pounds. Got the tools, got the size, got the shot, or he has the shot to, get into tight spaces and be a factor in there. So when the play gets in the middle of the ice and you want someone to have the puck on their stick, he's definitely a guy that can definitely do some damage in tight as well. So based on what I'm seeing on elite prospects at all international junior tournaments this year, 14 games, 8.6 goals. So he could definitely find the back of the net, and definitely a name that can help Finland get there as well. I was thinking of another name when I was talking about Kiviharju. I thought I'd just throw Pikkarainen in there as well. But yeah, I digress a bit, but I think US is definitely the winner in there, and then Finland's going to be right there, second overall. I think that's a little bit easier in this group than probably in the other one.
For sure. I think US probably will do it, but we all know Finland puts up a fight every time.
Yeah.
Never count them out. Dayton, do you agree with that? Is US got this?
I think I'll differ here a little bit. I would imagine that this battle will come down to goaltending, because the US has so many good goal scorers. You're going to need a really good goaltender, and the Finns have a really good goaltender.
Yeah.
And if he can get off on the tournament right, start the tournament right is maybe a better way to say that, then he, I think, will probably steal the show and be in a great position to fight the US and defeat the US for a bronze.
I think so too. Like I say, don't count out Finland. I think US probably going to take the group, but Finland's definitely going to be right there with them, and could surprise, could make a difference, right?
Kind of a low-key rivalry that's developed over an international competition is the US and Finns. They always meet each other, and you never know which way it's going to go.
Yeah, it is true. They seem to be matching together quite often lately, and like I said, in the same group too. So we'll have to see. All right, finally on our one here, Team Czechia, and they've got a few guys too that could potentially be ones to watch. Peter, actually, I'll start with you, Dayton. Who you got on this list here?
Well, hopefully I don't steal Peter's guy, but I wanted to talk about Jakob Fibiger.
You did. It's fine. It's totally fine.
I was wondering if I was going to, but I really have enjoyed watching his playoffs with Mississauga. I don't know if Mississauga had the most cohesive team in the playoffs, but he was easily one of their best. He was one of their play drivers from the blue line, and he had 4 assists in 5 games, which is the second highest total on the team behind Porter Martone. He was really strong defensively. In one of the clips I saw, he cited Morgan Riley as one of his influences, and you can kind of see how he models his game after him. And a little bit in, every defender is going to model their game after Cale Makar right now, and you can see it, right? He wants to be that puck protector. He wants that possession, and he's pretty good at it. And I think he's really kind of come into his own in the last chunk of the season. With the Czechs, he will be one of their top guys for sure.
Yeah, he's been really good in the playoffs, or he was really good in the playoffs. So for sure. Peter, who do you got now that Dayton's taking your guy?
I mean, yeah, no, everything that Dayton said about Jakob is basically what I saw. You see that two-way play. You see the smarts that he's able to play and be well composed under pressure. I think that's going to go well for him. But I wouldn't. We talked about how Czechia not necessarily surprised at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, but were a top team there. And the reason why they were a top team there is because of a 2025 draft eligible player, and Adam Benak. 10 points in 5 games for them at that tournament really stood out in a big way. leading that team in points and assists as well. So he was a very deceptive or very, skilled and deceptive playmaker for Czechia. Obviously the roster may not hold the same weight as the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. Trying to find out like if some of the names that were on there are still there. You still got Adam Tittelbach, you got Andre Koch, you got Maximilian Kuren, Peter Sikora as well. Adam Jiricek, unfortunately, not there because of his season-ending injury. But I think Benak is going to be one of those names that is still, younger, still on the smaller side, but the offensive IQ that he has and the skill that he has to be a dynamic force in the offensive zone, I think is going to go well or bode well for Czechia to try and lead the offense this year and get a lot of production from the forward group. So he's going to be one of those guys to lead the charge for them this season or this tournament.
Yeah. One guy I'm going to mention is Adam Jecko. I played for the Edmonton Oil Kings this past season. Really good season in his first year. 23 goals in 54 games. Was one of their top players, and yeah, he's been really good. Jesse wrote his prospect profile too, and he's been he's been covering the Edmonton Oil Kings all throughout the season, and Jecko's been on his radar quite a bit. Really good offensive player. He's got to work on his skating, but could definitely make a difference. He had 2 goals in the Hlinka Gretzky this past one, so yeah, he could potentially be someone to watch as well. Yeah, Czechia actually has some really good names that could do something, so maybe don't count them out either. Czechia has surprised lately in other tournaments, so maybe we shouldn't count them out. All of a sudden, hey, Czechia's here. Yeah. So yeah, make sure you're watching them. But Jiricek's a huge guy to be missing, because not just for Czechia, but for himself, because getting injured in the World Juniors, he hasn't been able to increase his stock at all for scouts. So he could, again, we talk about Kivi Harju dropping. He may drop as well because of that injury, and another team's going to get a really good defender later on. So yeah, for sure. All right, moving to other nations. Anyone else you want to talk about that's on the other teams that are in this tournament? I'll start with you, Peter.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Slovakia. It may not be the deepest roster that they had put together. Obviously, a lot of them, making that jump, already getting drafted and all that. But, Adam Nemitz, the younger brother of Simon, I think we could all agree that he's going to be one of those names on Slovakia that's definitely going to lead the charge for them this season, or if they have any chance to go deep, it's going to be resting on his shoulders. Looking at his stats this season, have been absolutely phenomenal as a 16-year-old in Slovakia's U20 league. But then again, the U20 league is still in Slovakia, may not compare to that of, let's say, Sweden or any other league, but the fact that he's dominating his age group still is very, very impressive. 57 points in 43 games, another 8 in 11 playoff games. So yeah, I just want to highlight him because he's definitely going to be a name to look out for in 2026. So still a few years removed, but big tournaments like this are a reason why he's going to get a lot of attention if he's able to step it up and be a key factor and one of the main producers for Slovakia.
Well, I mean, you do whatever you can to increase your stock, even years down the road. These tournaments are great for that. So, yeah, definitely be watching those guys, because right when the draft is over, we're looking towards the next one. So, may as well look at these guys too. Dayton, is there anyone else you want to highlight from the other countries we haven't talked about?
Yeah, Nemec is a good one, but I think I will point out. Well, let's go for a weird one. Not weird, but like somebody who might sort of show up as an unexpected star. And Norway has been on the rise, I think, for international competitions.
Yeah.
And they don't have any really big stars. Brandon Nygaard doesn't look like he'll be on the team. I think he might be too old. I'm not 100% sure, though. But there is a 16-year-old that could emerge as their best player, Mikkel Eriksson. So he's up for next year's draft, 16, already 5'10", pretty good size. He's just been on fire in the under 20 league. So he's playing way above his age level. I think that's the way you'd say it. He had 47 points in 23 games. And that seems like ridiculous numbers. And I know it's Norway's under 20 league. He only had 1 goal in Sweden's under 20 league in 6 games. But still, this kid is playing under 20 minutes, or under 20 games, getting minutes in under 20 games. Trying to straighten out all the words in my head. Got all these other names I'm trying to keep straight. It's always really impressive when you see a kid playing like 4 years. Yes, there's a 4-year gap between him and the competition. And another guy who jumped out to me at that was Simon Nemec. He was playing under 20 games as a 16-year-old, and very quickly made the transition to the professional league in Slovakia. And that resulted in him getting a 2nd overall pick by the Devils. And it doesn't look like they regret that at all.
No.
Eriksson, I think, is on a similar path. He's a forward, he's a center, but also, we all love kids and relatives of former NHLers. Espen Knutsen is his uncle. One of the great Norwegians to ever play in the NHL.
Yeah, he was actually, oh my gosh, I remember that name. That's
Yeah.
He played for Columbus, I believe.
Yeah, and Anaheim.
Yeah.
I think most of us might remember him for, at least most of us of a certain age might remember him for a very tragic reason, but he was pretty good before that happened.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, Norway's gotten a bit more highlighted lately, which is great. We love seeing the smaller countries getting some good players in, because I haven't seen them in a long time, right? Brandon Nygaard is going to be a high draft pick this year. That's going to be great for them as a country. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see what other guys can kind of come out of Norway in the future here. All right, let's do some quick predictions for this under 18s. And we already kind of said Canada is going to have a high chance of this. But Dayton, are you picking Canada's gold? And if so, who else? What are the other medals going?
I think Canada is the easy gold. I think Sweden is. Yeah, maybe I'll just go with the easy choice. I'll go Sweden, then Finland for gold, silver, bronze.
All right, Peter, what about you?
It's gonna. I honestly think it is gonna come down to Canada, US. So I think I'll go Canada gold, US silver, and Sweden bronze.
All right, I'm gonna say Canada's got gold, so I'll go Canada gold. I think US is gonna be there too. So US silver and no Finland. And I just Finland always surprises.
Yeah.
So I'll go Finland in the bronze, but it'll be a Sweden-Finland bronze medal game, which will be fun too. So there you go. I'll change it a bit. All right. Well, U18s, start on Friday. So make sure checking that if you can. If you want to wake up early or watch whatever recaps that they got. So, but that's coming up. And then right after that, I mean, the draft is going to be the next event because there's not any more international stuff. They're just going to have to hope that they do enough in these and to get drafted wherever high or wherever they go. All right, let's go on to prospects of the week. I have to finish off our show as we always do here. And Peter, I'll start with you. Who's your prospect of the week?
Yeah, I am going to the QMJHL for the first time in a long time, actually. Mainly because I mean, there have been prospects that have been standing out, but I tend to focus more for the draft eligible and not a whole lot happening. But I am going to pick a player that has been already drafted, and that's Ethan Gauthier from Drummondville. Drafted 2nd round 2023 by the Tampa Bay Lightning. I was a big fan of his game then, still a big fan right now because of that energy and tenacity that he brings. And he's leading the QMJHL playoffs in points with 18 in 10 games, I believe. Yes. So he's got 10 goals, 8 assists, and hasn't missed a game without a point. So in every single game that he's played in, he's gotten a point, including 2 4-point games, one in a sweep against in the game one against St. John New Brunswick, the Sea Dogs, and the other one came in their second round matchup with the Sherbrooke Phoenix. Believe that was his former team that he played. So getting a little bit of revenge there. So they went on, they're going into the final four, I believe, in the conference finals. So Drummondville's there. And I think Gauthier is still going to be a very impactful player with his energy, his goal scoring, and just his overall play. It's been working for him this season, and it's working in the playoffs right now. So he is my prospect of the week.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Lightning seem to get these guys later on, and and they seem to do well. So Gauthier definitely is one of those guys. Dayton, who's your prospect of the week?
Well, I thought I'd pick another homer. It's been a while, I took a break. But we're going to go back to the Blades and highlight Igor Sidorov, who has been on a tear in the playoffs. The Blades already have just been kind of unstoppable. In the second round, they swept the Red Deer Rebels, which I didn't see coming at all. The final 2 games, the Blades put up 15 goals, which is like, I don't know if that's wild to you guys, but I don't see scores that high anywhere. In those 2 games, Sidorov had 6 goals. He had double hat tricks. So he's rocking 8 points in the last 2 games heading into the Eastern semifinals in the WHL against the Moose Jaw Warriors, where he'll be facing Jagger Firkus, who has only 6 points in the last 2 games.
Only.
He also has 5 goals in the last 2 games. But they didn't. The Warriors didn't put up that many goals against the Swift Current Broncos. So the Blades are basically like letting Sidorov shoot all he wants. And a lot of those are going in the net. Yeah, one last thing I'll highlight here is the second game of the series. He had 13 shots. Unfortunately, he didn't have any goals, which is wild, but they're just giving him the puck and letting him shoot, and it is working. Great Ducks pick. He's a 7th rounder, I think. But yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, we'll see if he can translate that to the NHL or AHL first. But we'll see. It's not always a given, unfortunately. All right, mine is Artur Silovs, and I'm going to go Homer here just because he's up in the NHL now again because of Demko's injury. He is the backup to Casey DeSmith, so he may get some playoff games. I hope not, because I don't really want to. Nothing against him, but I don't know. That's a high pressure situation for a rookie to play in the playoffs. But he is up here and coming off a pretty good season in the AHL and some really good NHL experience when Demko was injured. Had a couple really good games was pretty good against the Vegas Golden Knights, one of the higher end teams, and played really well in his games this season. So, Silovs could potentially be the backup in Vancouver next year if DeSmith isn't re-signed. So, and he's looking more and more like an NHL goaltender. So I'm excited to see what he can do in the future, because Silovs is looking a lot more of maybe a starter in the NHL at some point, but we'll just have to see. But Silovs is my prospect of the week. All right. Well, there's another episode of Prospect Corner. Talk to the U18s, and next week, who knows? We'll see what we do. We may do a mock draft, like I said last week, but we'll have to wait and see. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Dayton, for coming on the show again. And make sure to check out all of our stuff at thehockeywriters.com at the Substack. But until our next episode, we'll see you on another episode of Prospect Corner.